While it was a severely flawed experience, Ren thoroughly enjoyed his time with Destiny 1. He pumped more hours into that game than I pumped breast milk into my children's mouth. Then Destiny 2 came along and ignored everything that made the first game so enjoyable. Fast forward to Curse of Osiris, which was throttling people's XP, pulling all sorts of shady business practices, and worst of all, created the most worthless DLC the franchise has seen yet. So Ren got rid of Destiny 2 and attempted to move on with his life. But much like his grandmother's corpse, he just couldn't leave this game alone. He dug his grandmother's dead body out of the ground to take one last look at her before giving her one final kiss goodbye. Which is what Ren's doing with the Warmind DLC, giving it one last look. But I'll let Ren take over from here. I gotta go take my nitroglycerin pill.
What's up, everybody? It's me, your favorite little boy in the whole wide world, Ren with 2 N's. And like Susan said, I got rid of Destiny 2 in a big way. So before we begin, I gotta give a quick shout out to my buddy Garrison for allowing me to use his account to play this game and its DLC. Now, like always, I'll start with the good stuff. As usual, the music is top notch, and the visuals are beautiful. When they manage to load in, that is. And I gotta give Bungie props. They didn't completely ruin the character of Rasputin like they did for Osiris. We learn more about Rasputin than I thought we would, but we don't learn too much about him. There's still a pretty good amount of mystery to him, which is a good thing, I guess. But with that being said, the story is exactly what you'd expect from this. It's just more of the same, you know? There's a gigantic worm god that we have to kill named Zol, and another new character who can't voice act to guide us through that story. But to be fair, the final boss does look pretty awesome, and it's the first time since The Taken King where the boss isn't actually just an enlarged character model of a regular enemy type. And I know what you're wondering, how hard is the final boss this time around? Because I was able to kill Gaul, the guy who took the power of the Traveler and used its light against me with just one hand. Pretty easily too. Then I was able to kill Panoptes using just my face, which in all honesty was kind of a difficult task, but it was doable because he was that easy. But Zol, on the other hand, is easily the toughest campaign boss yet, which really isn't saying a whole lot. He's still kind of a pushover, but he is challenging enough to the point where I wasn't able to kill him with my dog, like I had hoped to. But she had never been on stream before. She was just having a little bit of performance anxiety. Okay, she already knows the controls. Here we go.
Power up the javelin.
This is hard, man.
Javelin is online and
She is fighting me, man. She's locking up like she's got rigor mortis. This is hard. But the boss is easy enough for me to kill him using only my feet. I had some trouble with it at first. It was pretty tough having to cradle the controller up on one foot so that I could pull the right trigger with my other foot. But after I swapped out the buttons and made it so that I could shoot by just pressing down on the D-pad, things got a lot easier, and I was able to kill him without much trouble.
I can't believe it.
Oh, baby!
Took down a worm.
We all did.
Got him with my feet! Thumbs up! And that's pretty much where all the good stuff ends. Because as cool as this boss fight is, in actuality, it's just another strike boss. Yeah. This whole entire story mission was just lifted up from the campaign and placed into the strike playlist, which is something they did for Curse of Osiris as well. And I think this is the laziest thing I've ever seen a developer do. This is bottom of the barrel stuff here, just copying and pasting entire patches of content out of one portion of the game and into another. It's absolutely disgraceful, distasteful, and altogether wasteful. Practices like this are unacceptable, and the fact that my buddy Garrison paid $20 for this is appalling. Speaking of copy and pasting content, Bungie brought back the Suros regime, and quite a few other exotic pieces from Destiny 1 too, which is not okay. You had supposedly gotten rid of all of our gear for a reason. Destiny 2 was supposed to be a clean slate, a reset, And the fact that you've just unceremoniously decided to bring this stuff back kinda tells me that you guys have no idea what you're doing. Why would you get rid of all of our stuff if you're just gonna bring it back anyway and disguise it as new content? That's really kinda devious, kind of evil, if you ask me. If Garrison had actually played this, he would be disgusted. And they take this concept much, much further. So back in Destiny 1, to get the Sleeper Simulant, I had to jump through several hoops. Everybody did. There were challenges you had to complete, puzzles you had to solve, and while some of those activities were boring, some of them were also quite a pain in the ass, and pretty tedious at times. But it was worth it in the end because the Sleeper was one of the best raid weapons in the game. And after all that time I took to earn it, Bungie rips that gun out of my hands and is now forcing me to jump through even more hoops to get the same gun again. Hoops that are much more grindy and much less creative than they were last time. You're telling me I gotta grind out like 30 public events so that I can get 60 of these resonant stems, which randomly unlocks one of 40 nodes on the map, that I then have to search for like an idiot 15 times just so that I can get the same gun that I already got before. Sure, it gives you a little hint as to where it's located, but I don't want to look for that. That isn't fun. I don't want to do it. This is just nothing but tedious busy work, and it's insulting to me as somebody who dedicated a lot of his time to the first game. Bungie, my man, get creative, please. At least make it a different gun, or you make the challenges, actually challenging. Don't disguise this old gun as new content. It's pathetic. There is a way you could bring these old exotics back and make it work. You could bring them back between DLCs, right? Like trickle out the Suros, trickle out the Armamentarium, or maybe just give us a quest where we need to go back to the old tower and retrieve a few shards of some old gear to piece an older gun back together or something like that. Make a spectacle out of it. I'd be fine with that. I think most people would. And I don't know what the deal is, but all the voice acting in the Destiny DLCs is just terrible. The chick who voiced the ghost last time was really bad. And somehow, we've hit a new low with Anna Bray.
I came here to protect humanity. Isn't that what Guardians are supposed to do?
Who is the latest character model that just stands there as you give her tokens. In the last Destiny video I did, I criticized Shiro 4 for sounding drunk, because he did.
Make sure they don't snatch up any more fodder for their twisted experiments.
But somehow, Anna Bray sounds even drunker.
There might still be a warsat left in Earth's orbit. Let me see if I can adjust its trajectory.
She sounds Anna Bray-niated. And to cap it all off, in between cutscenes, you have to sit through these minute-long loading screens, which are proof that we have indeed arrived in the future. Some of these loading screens even go on for longer, giving you a lot of time to think about what else Garrison could have spent his $20 on. To Bungie's credit though, there is quite a lot of stuff to do in this new expansion. For the first time ever in Destiny 2, there's finally a reason to explore the environment, because they sprinkled 45 of these little collectible items around the map that you need to destroy, and after you take out 35 of them, you get an exotic weapon. But since I don't want to spend hours upon hours scouring the map in order to find them all, I just pulled up Dado's collectible guide and snagged them all up with no trouble. They did something very similar to this in the Taken King, where they sprinkled calcified fragments all over the Dreadnought, but they weren't just collectible items. I mean, some of them were, sure, but to get each and every one of them, you had to solve little puzzles, complete some challenges in the Court of Oryx, and perform various little tasks in order to earn all these calcified fragments. And by the end of it, you were awarded with the Touch of Malice. Not only was it one of the coolest looking guns in the game, but it was also an incredibly important weapon for the King's Fall raid. But in Destiny 2, you just pop open a collectible guide and shoot them all up, which isn't nearly as engaging, challenging, or rewarding as it was in the last game. And the reward is just an exotic sword. It's kind of a neat sword, but I really don't see much use in it. I don't think it was even worth the measly amount of effort I put in to earn it. But who knows? Maybe it's secretly amazing and I just don't know. But one of my biggest complaints about Vanilla D2 was its lack of incentive. There was nothing to grind for, and nothing to earn or show off. But now there is. There's tons of stuff to grind for. Like if you level up Zavala 50 times, you get this neat little exotic ship, which is cool and all, don't get me wrong, but I have no desire to sit there and play all those subpar strikes for such a lackluster reward, especially since I don't have any friends to play through this game with anymore. But what else can I do? There's really not anything else out there to play right now. So there's nothing else to do but do these strikes and listen to the I Seen That podcast. They cover all sorts of movies, both new and old. It's got Taylor in there and my favorite big daddy in the whole wide world, Alan with 2 L's. It's a really good podcast because I'm on there sometimes. So start up a strike, turn out the lights, whip out your ghost, and let Daddy Alan guide you through the mundanity that is Destiny 2.
I'm only here to service you, Mama.
But seriously, who wants to sit around Mars, grinding out the same exact patrols and the same old public events over and over, just to unlock an underwhelming gun or a piece of armor that does literally nothing for you? It has no perks on it. And even if these rewards were cool and worthwhile, they're still attached to the underwhelming game that is Destiny 2, with its uninspired weapon system. I honestly have no clue why they didn't just leave it like it was in the first game. And I've said before that in order for this game to be anywhere near as good as the first one, it needs to be completely restructured from the ground up. Because think about it. If they decrease the time to kill of the guns in the Crucible, and also make the grenades more powerful, like they were in the first game, they would need to drastically increase the player movement speed so that you could avoid getting shot at from the now more powerful weapons. But if they increase the movement speed like they would have to, then you'll be moving far too quickly on these tiny maps that were designed from the ground up with the slower movement speed in mind. So they'd have to restructure every map to accommodate the faster movement, and to a lesser extent, they would have to do the same thing for the strikes and campaign missions. And since we're talking about the Crucible, Bungie recently came out with a pretty big update to the weapons and movements, but all that update did was kind of prove my point. It was supposed to be this massive overhaul.
Character movement is way faster, way faster.
But if you hadn't told me that Bungie made some changes to the movement, I don't think I would have noticed much of a difference. It feels pretty similar to how it did when the game launched. And with all the improvements that they did make, I still don't feel nearly as capable as I did in the first game.
Weapons are gonna hit harder, like abilities are gonna come faster, hero moments are gonna make a return.
Clutching out a 1v3 in the Crucible is still so much more difficult than it was in the first game.
The Crucible team has come in and dumped in a bunch of power ammo changes to speed up the pace of the game, respawn times have come back faster.
The power ammo system is also fundamentally flawed. First of all, you're telling me that a shotgun belongs in the same weapon slot as a rocket launcher? What kind of sense does that make? And sure, it is nice to get more fusion rifle ammo, but if I'm in a decent team, which I never am, then that means we control all the power ammo, and as a result, we steamroll the opposition. Inversely, if I'm on a team full of thumbless children, which I usually am, that typically means that the other team is going to control the power ammo and destroy us as a result, which isn't fun. Therefore, tethering my enjoyment of this game to the skill of my random teammates. When the other team is hoarding power ammo and training supers, there's really not much I can do to fight back. And that really sucks. That's not fun. Back in Destiny 1, I could play that bitch solo all the time, and I always had a blast. Because if the other team had a fusion rifle, I could just swap to a shotgun, close that gap, and take him out. If somebody on the other team popped a super, I could snipe him out of it. There was always room for counterplay in Destiny 1. But in Destiny 2, if somebody on the other team pops a super, unless I have power ammo, I've got two options. Either run away or hope that my team has the sense to team shot that guy alongside me and burn him down, which they never do. And to cap things off, there's no thrill in melting a guy with a fusion rifle, because there was almost nothing he could do to counter you. It just feels like I'm gunning down a helpless player. And on the flip side of that, it's not fun getting destroyed by a shotgun when I didn't have an opportunity to counter him, like I did in the first game. And sure, they have made some really interesting buffs to some of the exotics, giving us more viable weapons to play with in the Crucible, which is a step in the right direction. But there's nothing here that makes me feel like the god I was in Destiny 1. They've also implemented a ranked playlist now. They've got a really neat gun as a reward for succeeding in that playlist that I would genuinely be interested in obtaining. But again, I have nobody to play this game with. I've tried going in solo, and wouldn't you know it, I was on a team that wasn't any good, so we lost. So I sent a message to the winning team to join their squad. They sent me an invite, but for whatever reason they refused to allow me into their party, so we weren't able to communicate with each other, and wouldn't you know it, we lost. But even if I did have good teammates, this game's skill gap is so low that an actual ranking doesn't really mean all that much. And playing ranked, man, it was just a miserable experience for me. I hate having to rely on the skill of others to succeed. If they had a Rumble ranking or something like that wasn't reliant on my teammates, I think then we'd be talking. But as it stands now, it just doesn't seem worth it. Besides, even if I did earn that gun, I'd have nobody to show it off to. Nobody who would care. Hardly anybody to kill with it, because the player population is so miserably low. But with all that being said, at the end of the day, Destiny 2 has really never been better. But that's a statement that means almost nothing. This DLC introduces content and features that should have been in the game since day one. And all the improvements that were made to this game, while they are nice, still fall incredibly short of how they were implemented in the first game, further illustrating that Destiny 2 is unsalvageable. The sad thing is, we're in the biggest gaming drought I've ever experienced. There's almost nothing else to play out there right now. It's kind of baffling. Sure, there's God of War, but after you finish that game, then what is there? Well, I guess there's Fortnite, but we'll talk about that in my next video. I didn't talk about the new raid layer because I wasn't able to play it. Like I said, nobody I know plays this game anymore, and I'm really not looking to spend 6 hours with a group of strangers, failing over and over with a group of randoms that doesn't know what they're doing. I'm over that. That would truly put me into cardiac Arrestiny. But I do hear good things about the raid, so maybe someday I'll try it. And you know, there's another big DLC coming out in September for this game, and I'm really curious to see what they do with that DLC. It probably won't change the game as drastically as it needs to, but I'm still curious, because they have to do something, right? But I mean, it took them 6 months just to boost my Warlock jump speed a little bit. Meanwhile, Fortnite over here is getting pretty substantial updates every single week. Bungie needs to step up their game in a massive way, and it's just a shame. This whole franchise is kind of shameful, because Destiny has always been a franchise that had so much potential. But instead of getting closer and closer to that potential, it keeps falling short, making mistakes, and I don't think it can ever be as good as we want it to, which is a shame, because all I want is to play a great game. Anyway though, I changed my gamer tag to RennsReviews. Feel free to add me on Xbox, and if you want to join my Destiny 2 clan, it's still relatively active. I'm on there sometimes now, so just let me know and I can squeeze you in there. That's about it. Remember to go check out I Seen That. They got a podcast with me in it coming out next week. We talk about Kingsman: The Golden Circle, as well as the video I did about Kingsman and some of the mistakes I made with that video. It was a really fun recording, really solid podcast, and I think you guys will thoroughly enjoy it, because you can never have too much Ren in your life. Apart from that, I got a video about Fortnite coming out real soon, but until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
What's going on, guys? It's me, your boy DPJ here with a sock in my mouth and a British accent. I'm at 5 Ingrams. Oh my god! Tickle me silly, I've got an ornament. Oh my god! None of this excites me in the slightest, in all honesty.